So let's begin class. So the last time we finished talking about a competitive strategy. So we talked about 5 forces. We focused on new entrants, barriers to entry. So we said, for example, if you set up a coffee shop and your coffee shop is doing very well, very profitable, what's going to happen? Let's say you set up a coffee shop next to the university and there are a lot of students who want to drink coffee. So you're starting to make a lot of profits. What's going to happen? Somebody else is going to open up a coffee shop, right? Is there any barrier to entry? No. Not really, right? Are you going to make as big profits? Not really. So in theory, if your industry has no barrier to entry, you can't make much profit because somebody else will come in. If you look at taxis in Korea, taxis are a lot cheaper in Korea than Ireland. Before in Ireland they had a license system for the taxi drivers. You had to pay ilach, so $100,000 to get the license. So that was a high barrier to entry. So there weren't many taxi drivers. Okay? So the taxi drivers in Ireland were earning almost as much money as doctors. They did a survey, they were like the 3rd highest earners in Ireland. So the government decided to take away the 100,000 license and to bring it down to just 5,000 euros, right? So obviously the taxi drivers weren't happy. They couldn't make as big profits. So it's the same for any industry. In Korea it's very easy to open up an English hagwon, right? So if somebody opens up an English hagwon in a new area with a lot of apartments, there are a lot of kids, they're making a big profit, right? They're very happy. This is great, I'm going to be rich. Then next thing, 3 more hagwons open up next to their hagwon, right? And the price is lower and the kids start going to the other English hagwon. Maybe there's no barrier to entry for the hagwons, right? It's very cheap. All they have to do is rent an office, buy some desks and a board, okay? And then they can start their own hagwon. So the more profitable industry can have a higher barrier to entry. Like pharmaceutical industry is very profitable. Right? Can you just start making your drugs? No, you have to spend a lot of money on research and development first. It might take you 10 years and you have to spend a lot of money on research and development. Then you can develop a drug at the end of that time. So then you can make a big profit. Okay? No, nobody else can. You have a patent system. You made the patent for the drug. That's your intellectual property. So other people can't just come along and copy your drug, right? So you can make a big profit. So we were talking about the barriers to entry, and we said that Starbucks tried to create a barrier to entry by having a very expensive inside of the store. So even if I open a coffee shop, students are not going to go there because it's not as good as Starbucks. So now I need to spend ilach or eoch on my interior to compete with Starbucks. Okay? So he has 3 strategies for how to deal with your competition. First one is position company where the forces are weak. So we're talking about the 5 forces. Second is take advantage of changes in the forces. And third is reshape the forces in your favor. So let's talk about an example. This is a US truck company, PACCAR, and they decided to focus their business on luxurious sleeper cabins for individual buyers. Do you understand luxurious sleeper cabin? Do you understand truck? Truck is a very big thing for transporting goods, right? On the road. So most truck companies, they're very big truck companies. They buy a lot of trucks. So if we look back at the 5 forces, we can see that the truck suppliers, they are supplying mainly to big truck companies, right? So Volvo might supply trucks to some big trucking company in Korea. They're not selling 1 or 2 trucks, they're selling 50 or 100 trucks, okay? So their customers are quite big. Substitutes could be train, transport by train instead. So they look at these forces and they decide on each one. So they look at their direct competitors, and they're just a small company. So their direct competitors can charge a lower price for trucking. Why? Because they can order a lot of trucks, so they can get a lower price. Okay, so we talked about it here in demand-side benefits of scale. IBM order a lot of hardware, so they can buy the hardware at a cheaper price. So it's hard for me to compete with IBM. If I'm just making 1 or 2 computers, I can't buy the hardware at a cheap price. But IBM buy a lot of hardware, so they can get a very cheap price. So for this truck company, their competitors are buying a lot of trucks from Volvo, right? So they can get a better deal from Volvo. Can you understand that idea? If Volvo sells you 100 trucks, they're going to give you a cheaper price. If they sell you 5 trucks, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. Okay? So also Volvo is, as a larger company, they can also have the other kind of economy of scale. They can charge a cheaper price. So as a small trucking company, PACCAR is just a small trucking company, I can't compete on price with my competitors. Can you understand that idea? It's hard to compete on price with the big companies. So what about customers? So what about suppliers? What about substitutes? So substitutes, we have train. Suppliers, so the unions are strong in the suppliers. So we look at our situation, and then we decide where can we focus that we can get some advantage. Where are the forces weak? So we think that the individual buyers are weak, right? If we have large buyers of trucks, they're stronger. So if we just have individual customer, we sell our trucks to just the individual customer, they don't have much power. It's weaker, right? So we decide to focus on individual buyers and some luxury. So we're selling a luxury truck to the individual buyer, right? Maybe Volvo is selling a not so luxury truck, standard truck, and they sell 100 or 200 trucks. We're just going to sell 1 truck to 1 person, but a luxurious truck. So we're looking at our competitors, and we're looking at customers and suppliers and substitutes, and we're trying to find some place where we can enter, where the forces are weak. Second one is take advantage of changes in the forces. So in this case we can see the record companies. Do you download music illegally? You don't have to answer, right? If you do, I have you on video. I can call the police, show them the video. Okay? But many people were downloading music illegally, or movies, right? So this was a problem. It was a substitute. A substitute in the... Instead of buying DVDs or CDs, people were just downloading as a substitute. So it's changing. The forces are changing. Substitute is getting very big in this case. So Apple took advantage of this situation. They made a deal with the record companies to sell their music on iTunes for a cheaper price. Okay? So Apple is now it's a very profitable business for Apple, iTunes. So Apple's realized in the music industry the forces are changing. Okay? The substitute is now very important in the music industry. So we have to do something, we have to deal with this. So they came up with their idea. Let's ask people just to pay a small amount, $1 for a song. Okay? And then the record company agreed, and Apple starts to make some good profit. Okay, so it means that the forces change, then we can get an advantage as things change. These days, especially in technology, the forces are changing more quickly. Okay? Reshape the forces in your favor. So these ones is more reactive. We're finding, in this case, we're finding some gap in the market, like niche market or something like that, right? Where the force is weak. So the individual customer doesn't have much power, right? In this case, we're reacting to the change in the force. But the third one is we can try and be proactive and reshape the force in our own favor. So, like we explained with the competitive advantage, we need to differentiate our product or try to make a better system so we can sell our product at a lower cost. Expand our services for customers, right? Help our suppliers by making our specification more standardized. If we have very individual specification, it's hard for suppliers to sell to us. But if we make more standard specialization, then our suppliers can more easily supply to us. So for example, if I'm working for a car company, the supplier is supplying BMW already, right? Some tire, certain size of tire. So I make my size of tire the same. So the supplier doesn't have to change for me. They don't have to change their equipment. So standardize my specification. So look at these 5 forces and decide how can I reshape these in some favorable way for me. So just we want to discuss about competitive advantage and about strategy, right? Because we're currently discussing about industry and competition. It's before we discuss about the market. This is also general marketing, right, and strategy. So let's discuss this question with your partner. So how should companies use this 5 forces strategy when deciding to sell or sell internationally? Can you remember 5 forces or some of the forces? So remember, we have the 5 forces, and then reshape, or 3 suggestions, right? These were the 5 forces. Competitors, customers, suppliers, new entrants, and substitutes. Can you remember them, or at least 3 of them? Then we had this kind of suggestion, 3 strategies, right? So discuss with your partner about these kind of strategies.
Can I see the question?
Want to see the question again?
Yes.
So, check your name and pass it on. Maybe this slide can be helpful. Explains the 3 strategies.
문제가 최고라고. 얘네들은 그러면 어떤 가공업자들하고 문제가 그 티크가 문제를 나와서 공급하느냐. 일반 목재 사는 거는 다 사는 거 치는 거 봤어요. 티크가 목재를 그러니까 티크가 목재를 어떻게 합법적으로 하는 건 거기 지역이 자연적으로 티크가 얼마나 많이 그러니까 심어가지고 나온 것들은 사람들 거라고 말했는데 거기 형철법에 적용되지 않는 거 생각합니다. 얼마나 많이 식상 목적으로 들어가서 얼마나 활성을 하고 그러니까 이분 정도 자기가 시키면
Okay, so can you guys answer the question? Yes? So, how should companies use this strategy?
This hard question for us.
So first of all, what are the 5 forces?
Customers, suppliers, direct competitors, and entry.
Yes, new entrants, substitutes. Okay. So then what strategy should a company use when they're dealing with these forces? They gave three strategies. What was the first suggestion? Okay, anybody else?
Weakness in their competition in weakness.
Okay, so look at your 5 forces, right? And find some weak point in the 5 forces. Okay?
Yes.
Try to find a weak point where you can take advantage. Okay? If you're a small company, this might be a niche market, just selling to a certain small segment of customers who have a weak position. Okay? We saw that example for the truck company. Okay? The individual buyers of trucks are in a weak position, right? The big bulk buyers of trucks are in a strong position. The individual buyer can't get a good deal from Volvo. Okay? Even Volvo, they're weak. They have to pay more anyway. So if they're going to pay more anyway, why don't we just make a luxury truck, especially for them, with this very the cabin is the front part of the truck, right? So find a weak point. So what's the second one? Second strategy? Take advantage of the changes, right? So the forces change, we can take advantage, right? In the example we saw, what force changed? In the example of downloading music, the record companies were selling the DVDs or CDs, right? What force changed? Substitutes, right? Substitutes, downloading music. So Apple took advantage and made legal downloading. Okay? And then what's the last strategy? received sources, right? So what we talked about earlier, just look at our own company, how can we make a competitive advantage, and try to get these guys on side, right, with me, like my customers and suppliers. So the last one is similar to making a competitive advantage, okay? So we use this kind of strategy to deal with competition, right? Looking at the competition and the industry. So now we're going to look at a case study where we can think about strategy a little bit, just practice what we learned about competitive advantage and strategy and product positioning, okay? So maybe you know about this already. I gave you the case study with some details and some of the technological information we don't really need, right? But what we're doing is we're comparing Sony, Microsoft and Nintendo. Does anybody have a Sony PlayStation? No? Yes? Which version? PlayStation 3? Nobody else?
When I was young, I had Sony PlayStation 1. So.
Okay. Does anybody have a Microsoft Xbox? You have an Xbox? Okay. Does anybody have a Nintendo Wii? Nintendo Wii. Okay. So anyway, that looks about a little bit like the sales. The Sony PlayStation is the most popular. We have 2. Microsoft Xbox is next. We have 1. And Nintendo is the least popular. Right? So we can write down some things here, either from the case or from your own knowledge. Okay, so first of all, let's start with the competitive advantage.
PlayStation.
What is the competitive advantage of these companies? Right? Then we'll look at target market and price. Who is their market target? So what is the competitive advantage of the PlayStation?
Price.
Price. Well, we're going to talk about price separately, right?
Sorry.
Yeah. So you think they're just going for a lower price, right? But apart from that price, what else?
At least lower than Xbox.
Right. So anyway, price we can put here. Sony is low. Okay, it's $399. Okay, and Xbox is higher, maybe $100 higher, right? This is dollars. Why did you buy a PlayStation? What do you think is the competitive advantage of the PlayStation? Memory capacity, read in the case, right? Hardware is similar to memory, right?
Very good design.
Design of games or the console?
PlayStation console.
Console design?
Big resolution.
Resolution? Graphic resolution? So if we look at the case, we can see a description, right, of Sony here, right, in the first part. So, and also in the second part. So, it also has a Netflix feature. Do you know Netflix?
Video streaming.
It's a US company which you pay money and you can watch the TV or movie program. Right? Do you have that kind of thing in Korea? No? Anyway, I don't think it's not easy to sign up from Netflix if you're not in the US, right? So who is the target market for the PlayStation?
All around player. All around.
First, so they said first at the start they're going to have teens, and then after that they're going to go to the all-round or casual gamer. Okay. So. Do you understand casual gamer?
Yes.
It
Yes.
is opposite with hardcore gamers.
Yes, opposite. So we have hardcore means they're always playing, right? We can see here hardcore gamers.
Yes.
So, where did they get their profit? Where do you think Sony got their profit? It says that here that they sell for $399, but the unit cost per console was $322. And this is just the variable cost, not including fixed cost. So in fact, this is a loss leader. Console is a loss leader. Do you understand the loss leader? Loss leader means they make a small loss on selling the console at the start. Okay, the cost was $322 to make the console, but that's just variable cost. It doesn't include the fixed costs like headquarter costs, right? That kind of thing. So in the end, they're making either a very small profit or none at all. So we can call this like a loss leader. So where does Sony make their profit from? If they don't make much profit from selling the console?
Game licensing and other add-ons.
Games and add-ons, right? What kind of add-ons do they have?
Online features, online connection, I think, connection features.
Okay, they mentioned here they have some cameras you can buy, other game handheld things, right? Controllers, and mainly the games, selling the games also. So then let's move on to Microsoft Xbox. So what is the competitive advantage of the Microsoft Xbox?
Controller.
Yes, what about the controller? So you can see here on the next page, Microsoft Xbox. So it has voice and movement recognition, right? So we can have voice and movement control. Right, here they don't have much voice or movement control.
It's better for multiplayer interactions.
Okay, and do more multiplayer.
Its controller was lighter and had more grips, had more naturally beating triggers. Yeah,
So the control is better, right?
easily
Voice and
to
movement and
handle.
other types of control. Better control.
Better control,
Who is the target for Microsoft Xbox?
Hardcore game.
Okay, so in this case, it said, if you read this sentence here, it says it catered more to media, entertainment, orientated gamers or casual gamers, not particularly on the core games. Okay. A little bit different here. It's more casual gamer or entertainment. Okay, we already said the price. Okay, profit. Also, they can make profit on the game. Maybe a little bit more on the console because it's a higher price. Other things, right? What about Nintendo Wii? What's the competitive advantage here? What? Touch screen.
Maybe the release dates of the console.
So released earlier.
자이로스코프.
What is gyroscope? I don't even.
NFC
어.
ability.
Huh?
NFC ability.
What's that?
Near
The thing you
near field
on and
communication.
So you can move the controller and the thing moves on the near field communication. So who is the target market?
Teams.
Teens, right? They're younger people. They like this kind of thing, right? So, what about pricing? Okay, so maybe price is also, I would say, similar. So, if we look back at the first page, we can see that after the launch, so we can see some details about which one is selling better. So which console is doing better?
Sony PlayStation.
Sony PlayStation, right? Sony PlayStation was selling almost double the Microsoft one, right? So by March 2014, Sony had sold a total of 6 million units, okay? And Microsoft had sold 3.9 million units, okay? And the Wii was just a long way behind, wasn't really selling many units. So Sony also sold a lot of games, and the Wii was well behind. So the questions that we're going to look at here is kind of a strategy question. So in the future, how should Sony position itself, right? We're working for Sony. Or how should the Sony PlayStation position itself, looking at our competition, considering like the competition, right? And the demands of the various segments. So let's look at this question first. How should Sony position themselves, or what kind of strategy should Sony make for the future? Right? So let's discuss with our partner about that. Okay. Discuss about the positioning at the moment of Sony compared to the other competitors, right? And then in the future, how can Sony position itself? So if we look at the dilemma here, right? We already discussed the competitive advantage of Sony. So it has better memory, hardware, graphics, and so on, right? It caters for Netflix. And its target is teens and casual gamers. So how should it position itself looking at the competition for the future? Okay, so discuss with your partner.
소니 플레이스테이션에서 자기를 그걸 다 제일 다음에
다음번엔 어떻게 해야 되나?
어떻게 될 것인가? 포지션이 지금 상황 뭐가 잘 나오고 그거랑 합쳐서 소니식을 나중에 이해 지금 이제
So we can think about these things, right? We talked about the 5 forces, consumers and so on, suppliers, right? Maybe more important here, substitutes and consumers, right? Customers, right? Our target customers. And I also think Sony's long-term goal is they want to be the entertainment hub in the home, right? Sony want to control the home entertainment, but also they want to be the computing hub, not just entertainment, but computing. Okay. So if we think about computing, our competitors would also be Microsoft and Apple. So we'll discuss about some strategy in these things. Right?
작은데
만약에 그 위치를 조사하려면
엑스박스는 일단 더 싸요.
그에 비해
마진율이 조금 돈을 벌고 들어가고 물건이 최대한
So Sony has a good reputation for innovation, right? You can see Sony is innovating here and selling more. So they need to keep innovating in the future, right? From now on. So we have to make some strategy so we can have some more innovation and continue to grow, right? And attract customers. So let's take another 3 minutes. Another 3 minutes to discuss and come up with some strategy for the future for Sony. I know it's a short time, but anyway you can have some idea, right?
플레이스토어랑 게임 하나
하이 퀄리티 게임을 제공해요. 분들 버전을 또 따로 만들어요. 한 가지 부분으로 여러 개의 카드를 조질 때보다는 경제적으로 효율적인 그러면 연관식으로 소니에서 소니 방송을
So, we make this product positioning map. Where are we going to put Sony on this map? Performance, high performance, low performance, high price, low price.
Low price.
Low price. What about performance?
High performance.
Middle, at the top, bottom, middle around here. Where will we put Xbox?
High price.
Higher price, so up this side more. What about performance? The same as Sony or more or less than Sony?
Less than.
Less than Sony here.
Yes.
Okay, what about the Nintendo Wii? Price maybe in the middle here.
Yes.
Then performance, lower performance. Okay, so we get an idea of where we are by making the product positioning map. Okay, so you'll do some project for your final project, right? You'll be studying some company and you'll need to look at the competitors like this. Just what is the main strength of your competitor and where are you in the industry? So you make a little map like this. So let's hear some ideas. We can erase Nintendo here. So what do you think what kind of strategy can we make? So we need a long-term strategy for PlayStation. So let's hear some ideas.
Sony making various version PlayStation.
Various what?
Various version.
Okay. So make some different versions. So for different market segments.
Yes.
So you're going to divide, what are you going to divide? Divide hardcore teenagers and entertainment?
No, high quality game and
Yes.
low quality game.
Yes. You mean just on price?
Yes.
So you're dividing the market segment by price? Okay, so divide by price. Okay. What about this? Already we have this, they're still selling the PlayStation 3, right? So in a way they have that a little bit because maybe you can still buy the PlayStation 3 if you want a lower price and less quality, right? But maybe you think go further, make a new version, a low price and maybe a kind of luxury version for the hardcore gamer. Okay? Any other ideas?
Well, they should keep on the lower price than their competitor.
Okay, so keep a low price on the console. So keep console as loss leader. We can lose money on the console, but make more money. We sell more consoles, we can sell more games, right? So continue this. Anything else? Would you reduce the price of the console?
Reduce from $3.99.
Yes, or make relatively lower, let's say more than $100 cheaper than Microsoft.
maybe I will keep the same, but plus advertising, which makes the possibility to earn the money afterwards.
Okay. So we didn't mention in the case, maybe we could mention now, is they did some kind of, they talked a little bit about their advertising. So they had this Great Awaits campaign on this page here, the first page, which aired on TV and on YouTube, and they also had a website. So they tried to create some buzz. Do you understand to create buzz? B makes a buzz sound. Bzzz. So can you understand creating buzz? What does that mean?
Make it loud, make it
Making noise, right?
noise, yeah.
So people notice. People notice. Creating buzz means making noise so people notice. So when they launched it, they made this kind of advertising, right? So you want to increase that advertising. Okay, anything else? Thinking about the future, right? Sony not only wants to be entertainment, but they also want to be computing hub. So thinking about the future, what kind of things could Sony add to the game, to its console?
Attracting non-gamers, like put DVD features or Blu-ray features, music or video, like TV in PlayStation X version, I think.
Okay, so attract less or more casual gamers. They're not really into gaming, right? So how are we going to attract them? More Netflix or that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Streaming?
Yeah.
Streaming,
TV, music,
streaming TV, music,
video,
Just a
movies.
browser.
Yeah.
okay? So, any other suggestions here? For Sony? PlayStation? So, just for example, we could try and make something for surfing the internet, right? Surfing the internet, that kind of thing. Or so we could start to compete with Microsoft and Apple on people these days. They use their laptop. A lot of people just use it just for clicking and surfing the internet rather than using it for work or something like that, right? Just for entertainment. So we could bring this in. What kind of things will we want to control in our house in the future with technology? What kind of things does Bill Gates control in his house with technology?
Everything.
Like what?
Light bulbs and fridge and
So we could control lights, right? Fridge, heating,
garage.
windows, right? Blinds, garage, right? So we could have kind of, if this is our long-term view to be the Sony to control the computing hub for the house, we could move into these kind of things, right? We have controls on the game already, so we could try to control other things around the house, right? So this will be kind of innovation and strategy. We have some danger here. What do you think could be a substitute for Sony? Like the music industry had a substitute of illegal downloading, right? The record companies had problems. They could have gone out of business if they didn't make a deal with Apple, right? And that people would just be downloading illegally. So, what's a possible substitute for Sony or for game consoles?
PC games.
PC games, right?
Just browsing mobile phones.
Mobile phones.
Just go outside with friends. Everything basically.
People change the culture, decide to spend more time with friends, right?
And tablets.
Hmm?
Tablets.
Tablets.
Yeah.
And augmented reality. I mean, in future it will be a real threat for Sony. I mean, this big stuff online.
So Google Glass, that kind of thing. Or virtual reality. Okay. So what do you think Sony can do if they look at the fact that there could be these kind of substitutes that the force could change in the future? What can they do if it's changing? In Korea, people don't use consoles, right? They use PC games. It's an unusual country. Most of the rest of the world, people use consoles. Why do Koreans prefer PC games? Do you guys play with PC games or consoles? PC games? What PC game do you play? StarCraft. My wife's brother likes, I think it's League of Legends, where you go around and with a team of people together, conquering or fighting with other people, right? Why do Koreans like this instead of the console? In Ireland or the UK, in Denmark, I guess people use more consoles instead of PC games. Why do you prefer PC games?
But together in games with 5 or more people.
Multiplayer?
Yeah.
Yes.
In real players in 다섯 명이서 모여가지고 게임을.
So you can play together with 5 people, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at this as a possible threat or a substitute for Sony. So what can Sony do then to prevent this? If we think about this, again, adding on some strategy, right? If we think specifically about this problem, we could have virtual reality, or we could have more people playing PC games because they like multiplayer games, right? Even I played the FIFA online because I like to play against somebody else in FIFA rather than using the console, right? Playing against the computer, I prefer to play with somebody.
I guess they should and they will add this multiplier feature, like distant multiplier feature.
Okay, so concentrate on multiplayer too. Right? Okay, so the point is that they have to consider when they're making the strategy, right? Consider forces like substitutes, okay? And then consider the last one was reshape the forces ourselves, right? Try to differentiate our product ourselves, right? We'll also look at what can change, what kind of forces can change, and how we can adapt if the forces change, right? And then just looking at the 5 forces, finding some weak area in the 5 forces, right? So currently the competition is not that strong for Sony, right? We can see that Microsoft is about half, and Wii is even lower. So then let's take a break for 10 minutes, then we can finish discussing when we come back.